Day 3 of training camp came and went very fast. The quickest practice of the year, but still some revelations that come along with it. We've got some competition along the offensive line, and we've got some safeties that continue to step up. Plus, there was a lot of players missing. Who those players were, and so much more on this episode of 49ers Cutback.
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It was a fun day at training camp. Crowd was definitely full, looking for places to sit, and ultimately they got to see a really quick practice, and this practice felt very much like the practices we've seen over the years from Kyle Shanahan. Very strategic, but also the same cycles that you're going to go through, the same periods as they go one to the other. It looked very clear that they're back to the basics and doing the things that they need to work. There was some work on turnovers. There's some work on special teams. There was some technique work in their everyday drills. They went through their fits just like they always do. It was like a normal training camp practice for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, except for a couple of things. Number one, there were some guys that were missing from practice. There were some guys that just didn't show up. That's always an interesting thing. As I brought this up yesterday on the show, was what happens when you get a situation where you have veterans that are going to be on maintenance days. And that's always one of the keys, is a maintenance day. And we know the veterans are going to get them, and fans don't really care about maintenance days, and the players are just not there. And there was a lot of guys missing. So being able to see this full team in action definitely can't happen. But we got to see a lot of young players step up. We got to see a lot of young players make some plays. And then we got to see just some extra battles that could be starting along the offensive line, some defensive linemen that are stepping up, and some safeties that continue to play really well. So it was fun. And we also got to see a kickoff return for the first time at practice, which was a lot of fun. And I'm going to get into all that. I want to give as much information as I can about what I saw at training camp. But please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online, the game starts here. So first thing we got to do is give a clear picture. Talked about Kyle Shanahan going back to the normal rhythm of training camp, getting back to the things that they did, whether it's stretching, the way they go into their normal fits, show how they're going to handle the run, but you get your linebackers in position. You go through some things there, whatever you were watching video on, going over in team meet or in position meetings. Now you come out and you walk through it in team, and that's what they were doing. Defense closest to the stands, and then you had the offense on the other side of the field. But it was very noticeable that there were several players missing. The first, of course, is Nick Bosa, because he's closest to everybody, and you see there's no Bosa there, and you've got Yetur Gross-Matos in the starting lineup. So no Bosa was in the house, and that's kind of expected, right? 2 practices and a rest day for Bosa, but he wasn't the only one that got a maintenance day and did not participate in practice in day 3. Of course, Charvarius Ward also didn't practice. Christian McCaffrey added to the list. Flanagan Fowles, who we know was injured in day one. So Flanagan Fowles misses practice for a second straight day. Same with running back Isaac Garendo. But some new names added beyond Charvarius Ward and Christian McCaffrey are guys like Jake Brendel and Spencer Burford and Jacob Cowing, George Kittle, Tay Martin, Nick Bosa, Malik Collins, John Feliciano, all guys who did not practice and we did not get our eyes on in day 3. So 49ers giving some guys rest days. Hopefully it's maintenance days for all these guys and that nobody's suffered a serious injury that's going to keep them out for any length of time. But it was interesting because of some of the guys that were missing. It's going to create some opportunities for some backups. Guys like Jacob Cowing doesn't want to miss. Cowing has done very good over the first 2 days of practice. And now here's an opportunity where he could have gotten better, and he wasn't. The good news for the 49ers is Ricky Pearsall was getting extra work on the field. So when they were having 11-on-11 scrimmage on the far field away, he was on the near field, and he was getting some workout in. It wasn't just sprints this time, but getting some actual field work, some cuts, getting in and out of breaks a little bit. It looks like he's trending towards being available for block 2, which will start Monday. So good news for the 49ers as far as Ricky Pearsall, but we just don't know about the other players. And of course, unless Kyle Shanahan speaks to the media, we just don't get injury updates. So we don't know the severity of any of these, whether they were just maintenance days. Some guys are actually hurt. We don't know, but the 49ers continue to have Tay Martin missing, and now Jacob Cowing to go along with Ricky Pearsall. So when it comes to wide receiver, a little thin, but a lot of offensive linemen as well. Feliciano, Brendel, and Burford. That's a big group right there in the middle of your football team. So we think it's going to be rest days and cleared up as rest days for those guys. And what that did was present an opportunity for other offensive linemen to get snaps and get some plays and get some eyes on them. And none more important than third-round pick Dominic Puni, who started at right guard today and got all the reps. And, of course, before practice ever started, Coach Chris Furster, the offensive line coach, talked about Puni in length and talked about how good he is and how, well he plays and how smart he is, how good he is at anchoring and pass protection, which we've kind of figured out. He's just been showing it on film ever since he was playing at Kansas and the Senior Bowl. He looked really good. Well, he got reps here. Now, Forrester did say it's tough to potentially think about starting Burford week 1 against the Jets because that's the bright lights. That's the moments, those big moments. Do you really want a rookie player starting in that sort of setting? Like he said, veteran John Feliciano, Spencer Burford, both of them have played in the bright lights, whether it's a primetime game, playoffs, or Super Bowl. So as far as nothing like that is going to give them any problem. So he was kind of saying there's a likelihood that Puni doesn't start, but he didn't outright say it. And Puni has definitely thrusted himself into this competition. And with Burford missing practice, the question is going to be, is Burford hurt? If he is, that might open the door for Dominic Puni, because it was just yesterday. Burford had started 2 straight days at practice at right guard. Didn't really look like he was going to let off the gas and give an opportunity for Dominic Puni to step in. But reps for Dominic Puni are huge, especially at this point in his young career where he's trying to develop and he's trying to get a lot better. So right now we've got some interesting things going on there with Dominic Puni. But you also have an interesting moment where Nick Zakel and Ben Barch are taking center snaps. And Barch with the first team, Nick Zakel, he had some with the first team as well, including a botched snap that he put on the ground. Drake Nugent also had a botched snap, not with the first team, but with the third team. So we did have some connection issues there, but it was just the one for each guy, and they kept it pretty clean most of the time. A couple offsides penalties here and there. Those are to be expected, but it's good to see that they're going to have a full solid rotation and a full solid competition on the interior part of the offensive line where you're going to have a decision to make, Brendel or Feliciano, Puni or Burford. you've got these guys at Banks. Who's he going to be competing with? Ben Barch and Nick Sakel. Lots of competition on the inside for some really, really good football players. So that should be interesting. And these guys need that work and competition because they have to not only just decide who are going to start along the offensive line, but also who's going to be those key backups. Players like Barch and Zakel, who have tremendous position versatility, have a opportunity now to prove how important they are to this football team. So that's very interesting. The other thing that continues to happen is 6th-round pick Jarrett Kingston is playing right tackle. He continues to play right tackle, which is something that we know that the 49ers had an idea he could do, but the thought was that he was going to move in. So he hasn't moved in yet. He's been playing on the outside, which is very interesting because it seems like he's gotten thrusted into the Ilm Manning role. And the Ilm Manning role last year was, Chris Furster said Ilm Manning looked like a guy that is meant to play guard in the NFL, but we have a spot at tackle that needs to be filled. We have a camp tackle role, and that's what Ilm Manning had to do last year. And of course, Ilm Manning did good enough and got enough people's attention that he was claimed by the Arizona Cardinals and put on their 53-man roster. Later in the year, he would be waived, and the San Francisco 49ers would welcome him back to the practice squad. They tried to then work him into guard. It didn't work out, and they moved on from Ilm Manning. So Kingston playing tackle, I don't know. There's a lot of competition at guard. He might not even have an opportunity there. So put him back in his comfort zone, and we'll see. Is he the next Ilm Manning as far as a guy that doesn't get a whole ton of reps at guard, and eventually they try to get him on the practice squad and develop him? Kingston's super athletic, a pretty good pass protector, needs to get better when it comes to run blocking, but they've decided to go with Kingston instead of Puni at tackle. Both guys had extreme, reps at tackle during their college career. So both guys are really capable of getting it done. And, when you're talking offensive line, you got to talk about Chris Hubbard. And interesting that we all thought Chris Hubbard was coming in and was going to play right tackle. Jalen Moore at left tackle, Chris Hubbard at right tackle. Well, Hubbard's been getting reps all over the place, but mainly at left tackle. That's where he's been getting the most reps. And we found out today from Coach Chris Furster that it was actually Daniel Brunskill who recommended that Hubbard come to the San Francisco 49ers and say that the 49ers should sign him. So he told Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch that Hubbard was a fit for the 49ers system and he could get done what they wanted up front. Chris Furster did say that he liked his skill set and he felt like he saw things in him, similarities of things that worked within the system that he saw in John Feliciano as well. He called them similar. Of course, they play two different positions, but Hubbard's going to have an opportunity to help this 49ers team. So I think this is an interesting one. But Daniel Brunskill, the former 49er, helping one of his former teammates and helping his former club get connected so that way he could come in and help this 49ers football team. Now, we've been talking about tight end 2 for the offseason. And as of right now, Eric Saubert has been tight end 2 in practice, and he's looked pretty good. And so what we got from Saubert is he continues to make plays. He continues to get in there and make the key blocks that he needs to make. Now, Logan Thomas did have a nice catch today in practice, and he looks like he's starting to get acclimated to this 49ers offense. I don't think this competition is close to being over. We got a Cameron Latu sighting today. I watched him a lot, and Cameron Latu looked like a guy that finally knows this offense. He looks comfortable with where he's supposed to be and when he's supposed to be there. And so I think he's really going to be gearing up for this competition. I think this one's going to come down to the wire between which of the tight ends the San Francisco 49ers decide to keep. And it could be a lot of fun. Saubert versus Logan Thomas versus Cam Latu versus Braden Willis. Somebody's going to get it done, and it's going to be fun. Now, when we're talking about defense, you have Isaac Yedem stepping in for Tarvarius Ward. So this time, normally yesterday, you had the nickel situations where you would have Yedem come in. He would play on the outside opposite Tarvarius Ward. Deebo would go to the nickel. Well, today, when you have Tarvarius Ward out of practice, Gedham and Deommodore Lenoir stayed on the outside, and Renardo Green went to the nickel. So right now, that seems to be the second group. If something is one of those outside guys is missing, Green will go to the nickel. Gedham will come in and play. So that's a good news thing. Plus, when they did switch it up, sometimes Ambry Thomas came in as well on the outside, and Lenoir went to nickel, and they went Ambry Thomas and Isaac Gedham. So Ambry Thomas is not out of the mix yet, still competing to potentially make this roster. And when we're talking about depth, when it came to the backup for Malik Collins, it was Kevin Givens. I'm guessing at some point it's just going to be Jordan Elliott every single time. And then Yetur Gross-Matos, I mentioned earlier, was in for Nick Bosa. One of the coolest things that we got to see today, and part of the reason I put Deebo Samuel on the thumbnail, was the 49ers worked on their kickoff and kickoff return team. And Deebo was a big part of that. And I tweeted out that there were several players that were working out as a kick returner. And Deebo was one of those guys. But also we got to see Jake Moody and Mitch Wisniewski kicking a bunch of different variety of kicks. Angled kicks, kicks that hung in the air a little bit, directional kicks, maybe where the returner had to run to the ball. But you also had line drive kicks that were going to bounce in the landing zone. Very unique. The first time they did it, I think it was more about working with the returners. The second time they did it, they worked on the actual units, the kickoff and kickoff return team, and the bodies and the body structures that are out there. It's a lot of fun. It's a different style. And Deebo talked about in his presser that there's going to be a lot of touchdowns on kick return, and it's a different play, and he wants to figure it out. So there were some groups that you could notice, guys that were out there. So the guys that were returning kicks for the 49ers, Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, this is something that I've alluded to for a long time, that I thought running back could make sense. And Jordan Mason did a pretty good job fielding the ball. I did see one muff today where the ball bounced past him and he ended up just knocking it out of the end zone. But for the most part, I give credit to all these guys. They did a pretty good job. So Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason were one group. Deebo Samuel and Kyle Juszczyk were another group. Very interesting. Most of the time, Deebo was the one doing the return, and Deebo admitted that he wants to be a full-time return guy as far as kickoffs go. It's not going to be lack of want that prevents Deebo from getting in there and doing it. It's going to be Kyle Shanahan, because he said he's a team guy, and if Kyle said he doesn't want him back there taking those hits, then he won't. But he thinks it could be the explosive play. And if you feel like you can get some kickoff returns that go for touchdowns, that's huge. If you think they can go for great field positions, that's good too. So it seems like a play that could be interesting. Maybe Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason could just get it done. Maybe a combination of different guys can get it done, or maybe it will be Deebo Samuel. Whether it's Kyle Juszczyk or not, that I'm not too sure about. So that was something that was interesting. They were also working on an inversion. So sometimes they would play up, and I'm guessing that was to stop the line drives. And then right before the kick, they were kind of moving back 5 yards and a little bit out wider towards the sideline, so that way they could field a directed kick in a certain direction. So they were working on that in tandem as well. Patrick Taylor and Danny Gray were out there working, which was interesting. I think that Danny Gray is just so fast. You got to have the guy that can block, right? So that's what you're seeing is you're getting the Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, both can block. But you get Deebo and Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk could be the lead blocker for Deebo. Ronnie Bell and Trent Taylor, one of them could block. Patrick Taylor, Danny Gray, Patrick Taylor could block. He's 6'2", 218, big dude. Danny Gray looks lightning fast. And then Cody Schrader and Tariq Owens were handling some kickoff return as well. I don't think that's going to be the group just from what I saw today, but they're obviously going to have a lot more time to still determine who is going to be returning kicks for the San Francisco 49ers. But it was fun to see. And on their front two lines, it was lots of defensive ends, lots of linebackers, lots of running backs that were handling both sides. So you've got a key type of player that's going to be playing. It's going to be tight end, defensive end, athletic, big men. And then you're going to throw in there some running backs and a couple of safeties. You want the bigger, faster guys that can definitely still block when it comes to playing on kick return. And then when it's on the kickoff, you need those guys that can disengage from blockers fill their gaps and make plays. So a unique play this year for the entire NFL is going to be kickoff and kickoff return. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but if Deebo's back there, I'm guessing the teams are going to kick somewhere else. I wonder at what point the 49ers try a group that is Deebo and Danny Gray. Could be the most explosive group if you're not going to use Christian McCaffrey, which I don't think they will. That's an interesting group. Gray is so fast. Could be a way he makes this football team. So that's an area that I like to see. And then I also wonder when Ricky Pearsall will get involved. Once he's back from injury, will he get involved in the punt return that Jacob Cowling did pretty good at? Trent Taylor's been fantastic. And of course, Trent Taylor could always be the kickoff return guy as well. Leonard Floyd continues to impress. He was just constantly in the backfield making plays. Of course, there's no pads, but first step quickness, hand placement, technique, bend, the power, it's all there. I mean, he looks the part. The guy looks like a power forward. He's fantastic. And the long arms are definitely going to help him. And it's going to give Colton McKivitz a lot of work this week. Colton McKivitz a lot of work all throughout training camp that's going to make him a better football player. And then Javon Hargrave has been looking really good. He is in fantastic shape. Lost some LBs. He's moving around very quickly, looking a lot more nimble and a lot more athletic than we saw him last year. So that's good news for the 49ers as well. Brock Purdy continues to shine. And I know that he threw an interception and he didn't look as good as he's looked, other days, but there were a lot of guys sitting. There's no George Kittle. That plays a big part in it. There's still no Brandon Ayuk. There's still no Trent Williams. But he looks crisp. When he's throwing the slants, he's getting rid of the football in time. He's hitting crossers in stride. He's making some plays on the outside of Trent Taylor, who had a couple more catches today. So there are some plays like that. Now, on the interception, he overthrew Deebo Samuel along the sideline. Samuel running a corner route. Jair Brown did a good job. He was playing over the top of that route. Deebo went up to get it, but it was airmailed over his head, and Jair Brown made the catch near the sideline, got his feet down for a tremendous interception. So Malik Mustafa, interception already during preseason, and now Jair Brown, San Francisco 49ers safeties, making some plays. And so there's an opportunity there, and it's been a lot of fun to see those guys show up and show out, and they've been really impressive. Now, one thing that was very uncharacteristic that happened in practice was Elijah Mitchell fumbled. Well, Elijah Mitchell never fumbles, and he fumbled. Fred Warner came through and absolutely knocked the ball down. And Elijah Mitchell had made a great catch, was getting a lot of yardage on Yak, and then here came Fred and knocked the ball out, and it definitely changed how that felt right there. He was not happy. He did not get up right away. It was recovered by Isaac Yedem, and a turnover for the 49ers defense. And day 3 was all about 49ers defense. They look really good, and this is not uncommon for training camp. I've been going for, I think this is my 4th or 5th straight year, and every single year the defense, especially early on before pads, do really well. Usually once we get to block 2, block 3, the offense starts catching up. But also remember when you're evaluating, and it's not all about results, because the defensive coordinator and 49ers offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan, they work in tandem to get certain looks that are going to be bad for the defense that the offense is trying to take advantage of, and they get looks that are going to be bad for the offense that the defense is going to take advantage of. So they're working together to find these unique looks that could benefit one or the other. And of course, you need the one that's in benefit to be able to get it done. But that's what they do a lot of times. They're scheming it up that way. It's not free flowing, move the ball, call whatever you can to beat that defense. No, they're kind of working along a script to force their players to make certain decisions. And that's why you're going to see players take chances. You're going to see wide receivers and quarterbacks seeing what they can get away with. It's just a lot different. So there's some things with that. And we'll see how the 49ers continue to respond at practice. So Josh Dobbs, to me, didn't look all that bad. I've heard a lot of negative things about Josh Dobbs. To me, he looked like he was a little bit more comfortable in the pocket for the 49ers, getting the ball out with better rhythm. He didn't hold on to the ball very much. We haven't seen him run a whole lot either. So he's trying to win from the pocket. I think once he starts being able to be creative and use his legs and get outside the pocket, that's when we're going to see some of the moments where he shines. So Josh Dobbs looking a little bit better. Some of the good news is Shaquille Brown got his hand up, knocked the ball away from Josh Dobbs. That's really good. And so you're getting some moments for some of these young guys where they're getting reps. Malik Collins gone. A guy like Shaquille Brown gets something done. So we're getting really close to pads now. So they're going to have practice on Saturday. That is going to be the end of block 1. And once block 1 is over, they'll have Sunday off. Monday, they're going to come back, and that's when we're going to see pads go on to the 49ers for the first time. That's when they're going to kind of ratchet it up. And so what you're getting from block 2 is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practice, all of them open to fans. So that those are going to be live. There's going to be a lot of cool video and pictures and things that come out from training camp, just like always. Then they're going to have Thursday off, and then they're rolling for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for block 3. Then you get in to the next week, and they're going to have practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, which is Dwight Clark Day on the Wednesday the 7th. And then they're going to finish practice the next day. But the Dwight Clark is the last time it's open to fans. So if you're planning on getting out there or you have tickets, you know that's the last day. Then that weekend, they roll right into the first preseason game against the Tennessee Titans. So 49ers are going to roll through training camp because after Tennessee Titans, then they're at UC Irvine playing against the Saints in joint practices before they play the Saints later on that week. So the 49ers are getting into this real quick. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to ramp it up when it comes to practice. I'm excited about it. Let me know in the comment section what you think about some of the competitions, the competition along the offensive line. Who's going to win? Who do you like the most in that situation? Do you like Chris Foerster leaving it open for all those guys to compete? I like competition. Let it happen. Let's see what happens. The best player rises to the occasion. What do you think about who returns kicks? Should it be Deebo? I mean, Deebo's the most explosive, but are you worried about him getting hurt? It sounds like Deebo really wants to do it. We'll see if Kyle Shanahan allows him, and hopefully Danny Gray gets an opportunity. I want to see it in preseason, how these guys respond. It's going to be one of the funnest plays of the entire year is going to be kickoff and kickoff return. No longer can you go to the snack bar, go to the restroom, and say, hey, I'm just going to miss a touchback. You might miss one of the most exciting plays in football. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And if they do put Deebo back there, the thought is whoever's next to him is probably going to get the ball a lot more than Deebo. So you could force their hand if you have another really good returner. Could be interesting. So let me know what you think about that. Props to Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, who have created turnovers. Fred Warner getting the ball away from Elijah Mitchell. We've got young guys stepping up and making plays. Hopefully we'll get some good news about the guys who missed practice today. But I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, we're going to cut back on Believe. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.